So can you tell me the names of your parents?
Sure.
And where they were from?
My parents' names were Rose and Isaac, and they were from Warsaw, Poland. My father came over here first, left my mother there for 5 years so he could get a job in New York and he would be able to send for her. But after 5 years, she came over with one of my brothers, and unfortunately, one of my other brothers passed away while he was 2. My mother never told him about the son's death because she felt that my father couldn't do anything about it. He wasn't going to come back to Warsaw, so she kept it from him, so he wouldn't have anything to worry or think about. And when I was born, oh my goodness, I was 2 years old when I was born. We're 2 years apart. And we grew up together. We were very close, my brother and I, and Julie. And I was I was a tomboy. When the park would close at night, I climbed the fence to get into the park. I was a fighter. If anybody hurt my brother, they were in deep trouble. I had a lot of nice friends. We grew up together, very, very nice girls. We were good girls. We didn't belong to any clubs or anything like that. We didn't have video games and we didn't have anything like that. It was things that we made up on our own to play with. Oh, but like I said, it was a very happy childhood. And my mother was a good cook. She upheld the Sabbath. She lit candles every Shabbat. And we grew up to respect the Jewish laws and traditions. We were Orthodox. We were an Orthodox family. My parents went to synagogue every holiday, Passover, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. We were always in the synagogue. Rose was my mother's name. Isaac was my father's name. Sometimes they called him Isidore or Yitzhak, which was the Jewish way of saying it. You know, graduate high school, you look forward to going to college or doing something. But unfortunately, my father, 2 years later, passed away. I don't know if you heard me. If you didn't hear me, Mom is going to tell you everything I just said to her. She'll tell you everything. Great dad. You would have been a great grandfather. Look who I brought your little granddaughter. Huh? Why was she crazy for you? And was she crazy for the two of you? I was very easy for me to do for others. And I said, you know what, I think I want to be a nurse, but that plan shattered because I had to go to work. I really wanted to go to nursing school. I wanted to be a nurse so badly. I really did.
Am I sitting okay or am I?
Yeah, you're fine, you're fine.
My mother was the one who sort of raised us. She was a good mother, took good care of us. There were 3 children, all boys. Stuart, who was the youngest, Gilbert the middle, and myself. So it was a very mixed New York group. And I had a good time with them. We'd play punch ball in the street, or we'd play stick ball in the street, or we'd go to the park and play football. And if you came home with your shirt not ripped, you didn't play. Had people then that would go around with an organ or sell you a pony ride for 2 cents or a nickel. In those days, a major consideration was making a living. No different today. You know, you want your kids to go out and make a living. So when I quit school, I took a job. I left school when I was 16 years old. That was my fault. I was interested in chasing girls, and I needed to make some money to entertain them. And that was my fault. I could have and should have gone much further with my education. I had to think about going to work. I knew within the next few months or so, I'd be drafted into the Army. I had a draft then. So I pushed up my draft, went into the Army. To go to Korea was no glamour. There was no glamour. It was crappy duty, if you know what I mean. The 2 years in the Army was your experience. You learned to take care of yourself. It was a growing up process.
So I heard you used to go to the USO.
That's true. We used to go with one or two friends. That's where I met your grandmother.
He had a nice personality. He had a good sense of humor. So we went into this little place, and it's called Club Capri. Everybody was in tuxedos. And I said, why are they all wearing tuxedos? It's very strange. Well, anyway, Larry looked at me and he said, you know, they're all gay here. I said, oh, really?
I don't remember.
And we got along very well. We really did.
I guess it worked out okay. You're still dancing.
I said, this could be the love of my life. And it turned out that it was.
We continued dating, and look what happened to me.
And one date led to another date. And Papa was stationed at West Point at the time. He could not come in every weekend, but we had a lot of telephone conversations. And when he came in, I remember he bought me a watch. And I said, what is this for? He says, nothing, I just wanted to buy you something. And I still have that watch today.
Sylvia was kind, considerate. It's the same way today. She's the same way today.
After that, the dates became a little bit more, so to speak. Movies, out to dinner, going for walks in the park on Sunday when he came, watching TV. Papa used to work late at a department store named Gertz, and he wouldn't get to me before 9 o'clock at night. So had dinner together Saturday nights and watched the Jackie Gleason show and the Sid Caesar show, and that's the way we spent our Saturday evenings.
Grandma became pregnant, I think, after we were married about somewhere around 10 or 11 months. What, the birth of my son? I guess I was a little nervous.
The day came when I was going to go to have him. I called Papa on the phone, Larry on the phone. He was working. I said, you better come home. Then I realized that he would never make it in time for me. So what I did was I called my mother and I said, Mom, take a taxi as fast as you can, and I'm going to walk over to meet you where, no, it wasn't a taxi, it was a bus. And it was only about 20 minutes away from me. And when she got off that bus, I was standing on the corner after I walked 10 blocks Being in labor, I walked 10 blocks. And when I saw my mother, it was like I was seeing the Messiah. She called a cab, I got into the cab, and on the way to the hospital, I called Larry at work and I said, don't rush, because Mom is with me, and we're gonna be just fine. And got to the hospital, and then Larry met me there, of course, and 6 hours later, the most beautiful baby boy entered the world. And let me tell you, he was gorgeous, with a head of black hair and weighed 6 pounds. No, he weighed 714. That's what he weighed. 714, beautiful, head of black hair, and absolutely gorgeous. The second love of my life. Larry was number one. This was my second love in my life, this beautiful baby boy.
Brought him home from the hospital. And I had to change his diaper. I was the first one. Got rid of that duty diaper. Grandma became pregnant again. She gave birth to a little girl who only lived about 7 months. We had a child between Erwin and Nancy. Her name was Marla. That was a tough time in my life. A tough time.
And I felt so bad for him. I kept telling him, oh, we're gonna have a sister, we're gonna have another baby for you. And he was 3 years old at the time, and he never questioned us. He was too young to ask, where's the baby you promised me? And kind of we put it out of his mind. And doctor came out and said, we have a problem here. The child has a serious birth defect. And our advice to you is not to do anything about it and let nature take its course.
Did you see Marla?
See her? Every week. It was something I felt I wanted to do. We put her at peace, we buried her, and then we went on with our life. Then maybe 2 years later, mother became pregnant with your mother. And when she was born, when your mother was born, there was almost a block party. All the neighbors were so happy. That was a wonderful time. As rough as this was for us, when you were born, it was a block party. I'm serious.
You know, you say God takes away and gives back. Well, he gave back with interest, my darling.
Yeah.
Interest.
That I don't forget.
Never brought it up. And then, of course, Nancy was born. And that was God's second gift to me. I don't have to tell you about Nancy. Do I have to tell you about my precious child? 3 years after, when Erwin was 4 years old, I believe, I became pregnant with Nancy, the second love of my life, okay? And they say in the Jewish religion, what God takes away, he normally gives back. So he took one child and gave me another precious daughter. And we went to the doctor's office first. We did not go to the hospital. We went to the doctor's office. He said, come to the office, which was surprising. Usually they tell you to go to the hospital. But he said, you come to the office first. And when I got there, he said, oh, you have time. So we stayed in the OB's office. And finally he went out and he said to Larry, well, now you can take me to the hospital and I'll meet you there. Larry got into the car, and on the way to the hospital I said, hold it. I'm not going to the hospital like this. You have to stop at the drugstore. And he looked at me like I was crazy. Why are you going to stop at the drugstore? I have to get lipstick. I left my lipstick at home and I'm not going to have the baby without looking good. Well, Dad almost took a fit, Larry. He was like beside himself. And I said, don't argue with me, this is what I want to do. And I went into the drugstore. I said, quickly give me a tube of lipstick. I rushed out, got back into the car, and we got to the hospital. And then 4 to 5 hours later, it was 1 o'clock when we got to the hospital. It was 6 o'clock when Nancy was born.
No, I don't remember bringing her home, yeah. But she got home safe and sound, that I know.
She was wonderful, and Erwin helped as much. I'd say, go take the bottle out of the refrigerator for me and give it, you want to feed the baby? And I held Nancy and he held the bottle to her lips, and it was just a lot of fun. And Larry and I were we were there for them all the time. I did not work. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I attended school functions, games that they played, and I was there for them 24/7. There are no words to describe my two children. They were very close. They were as close as a brother and sister could be. They really were. They grew up very, very nicely, and everything was beautiful. It was a beautiful home. We wanted to make sure that the kids would have a future. They wouldn't flounder, make up their mind, because we told them, when you wake up in the morning to go to work, you want to be happy going to work. Because if you're not happy going to work, it's a miserable existence. You have to like what you're doing. That is important, isn't it? You have to like what you're doing, and that is the bottom line. Otherwise, it's meaningless.
Erwin graduated college. A little after that, he got married, started his own family. Yeah, we watched her grow up. Then off to college she went. Nancy took her own apartment.
Now he runs a business, and he's very successful at what he does. He's very well liked. Nancy loved being a nurse. Loved it. She loved taking care of people. She's warm and kind.
Maybe 2 years later, she got married. Well, I think it was different. When they got married, they made the wedding in their house, and it was beautiful. There was no fancy ballroom type wedding. It was just a very warm environment. They turned out okay. Turned out okay. I always worked. From the day I got married up until 2 years ago, I worked. I had a job. I brought home an income. Some years were good, some years were not quite as good, some years were better. That's the life of a salesman. Absolutely, I enjoyed doing what I did. Enjoyed meeting all the people, the customers. I'd be working today if I didn't have a physical problem. Physically, I'm not the same person I used to be. It's tough on Mother. She's been very good to me.
But you'd be surprised how strong you are when you have to be. Another tragedy in my life. He says, I just have to tell you, Nancy has breast cancer. Well, I think my whole world fell apart at that moment. And I said to myself when she hung up, well, there's another time in your life that you're going to have to be strong now. Strong for yourself, strong for Larry, and certainly strong for Nancy, because she's going to need you now more than ever to help her in whatever way I could. And when I spoke to my kids, Erwin, Ida, Dick, even Nathan and Ryan and Rena and Annie, Laura, Grant and Max, and Richard, they were all there for her and didn't know what to do for her and cared for her, and with the way they acted made me even more stronger. And that's why Nancy is doing so well, because of all the support from the family. And that's the whole thing, family. And boy, do we have a family.
Happiness with my life is my children and my grandchildren. That's they'd say in Yiddish, the kuvitz you get. It's the pleasure, the nachas. Do you understand what I'm saying? I'm satisfied with my life, okay? I have no problems, but I have no adventures. Well, I can't see where you're going to make a movie out of it.
What's there to say about Larry? Came into my life. We fell in love. He's a wonderful husband, wonderful father, wonderful grandfather. How do I look back? I look back and I see me as a very happy child, growing up in a happy home, having a lot of nice friends, totally fulfilled with my life. I have a wonderful husband whom I adore, and I raised two beautiful children. I think I did a good job. I have a wonderful family, wonderful grandchildren, and a great grandchild, and one on the way. I think I'm happy with my life the way it was and the way it is today. I don't have any regrets. I don't think about it, because it doesn't really do any good to go back and dwell on what if, and what would have been. And this is where I am today, content and happy with my life, and that's all I can say.